all the way to us. Thank you to whoever's recording this for letting us all know. And if anybody has a problem with this being recorded, just let us know in the chat. Anyway, so 40% of that 1.7 million tons of surplus food was generated in our own household, and the majority of the food waste that comes from households is sent to landfills. And you know, what else? We talked about all the other resources that get wasted when we waste food. 362 billion gallons of water were wasted in 2021 as a result of food that was produced for humans and never consumed. For those of us that have ever been to the Olympics swim trials, you could fill about 660,000 Olympic swimming pools with the water that we wasted in 2021. And it also produced 8 million metric tons of CO2 equivalent, which is about the same equivalent to about 2 million gas-powered cars that were driven for a year. So again, these are really, really big impacts. And beyond the environmental impact of wasted food is also a social problem. In Nebraska alone, 12% of the people that live in Nebraska are food insecure. And I wanted to just open this up for a little discussion to see if anybody has a sense of an understanding of what food insecurity is. Maybe if you want to hit your little hands up or thumbs up icon, or even just unmute yourself and speak up if you feel like you have a good understanding where food insecurity is. Well, I'll just give a brief, definition of that, just in case that's a word you haven't heard before. But oftentimes we hear the word hunger used interchangeably with food insecurity. And the food insecurity, oftentimes people who are experiencing food insecurity may not be hungry. They may be filling their, getting their diet, their calorie needs met by cheaper, less nutritious food. They might be getting food from an assistance agency that's providing them food. But what food insecurity is, it's just a general concern that you're not going to have enough food. And that could be because food prices have gone up and you don't know that with your paycheck if you'll make it to the end of the month and still be able to pay for the food that you need to feed your family or yourself. It could look like you're shopping the cheapest foods at the grocery store. So you may have bigger health concerns, such as diabetes or heart disease. Your children might have a harder time concentrating at school because they had to skip a meal last night. So there's, food insecurity is a pretty pervasive problem in our society. Unfortunately, and when I say unfortunately, it's because it's completely solvable. Globally, 1 in 3 people don't have enough food to meet their needs. And again, that can be a combination of just pure outright hunger and prolonged hunger, or it can look like malnutrition, not getting the types of food that they need to thrive in society. Just right here in the Omaha metro area, 1 in 7 kids are living with food insecurity and they go to bed hungry tonight. That's, a little over 30,000 kids in our community. About 80,000 people in this 3-county area are experiencing food insecurity. And unfortunately, one of the effects we saw of the pandemic, and there were lots, but one of them that kind of stood out is that the rate of hunger among seniors, our senior citizen residents, is also on the rise. And, as part of that social issue, wasted food is also an equity issue. The graph there shows you the food insecurity rates for the Omaha metro area. And as you can see, Black and brown communities are disproportionately impacted by food insecurity. And like I said earlier, oftentimes what that might look like is people are living in what's referred to sometimes as food swamps or food deserts. Doesn't necessarily mean you can't find food, but you're not going to find the most nutritious, nutrient dense foods, perhaps, or maybe you just simply can't afford those foods. There's been some studies in the Omaha Metro where some of these neighborhoods that people are living in that have high food insecurity rates, also many of the folks experiencing food insecurity also have low access to vehicles, personal vehicles, and the food outlets that they have accessible to them are fast food restaurants, Dollar Generals, places like that. And again, your selections may, what you can afford to purchase oftentimes is the least nutritious, nutrient dense food at the grocery stores. So at the beginning of the presentation, I said I was with Saving Grace Perishable Food Rescue. So I do want to spend a little bit of time just talking about who we are and how we fit into this big conversation about wasted food and food insecurity. This is one of our trucks, and hopefully some of you have seen our trucks around or maybe have heard of this organization before. Our mission is to connect perishable food from local food purveyors to local nonprofits that feed our hungry. And we also focus on awareness and educating the community on wasted food and hunger. And this is a picture of our fleet of vehicles and the drivers with each of their vehicles. I wanted to start with just looking at the Environmental Protection Agency's food recovery hierarchy. This image shows the methods to capture wasted food from the most efficient to the least efficient in terms of the environment, society, and the economy. The Environmental Protection Agency has prioritized reducing wasted food. They have set a goal to reduce the amount of food waste in the United States by 50% by the year 2030, which is coming right up. And as an effort to help people visualize how, we can most effectively reduce food waste, they created this inverted pyramid. And reducing food waste at the very top, which was what my mother was always proposing at the dinner tables, that we were not going to waste our food, is the most effective way for us all to reduce food waste. And then that second tier, that feed people in need, that's really where our organization fits in. And I wanted to clarify, sometimes I use the word wasted food versus food waste. And I do that because I want to be very careful to let people know that what we do as an organization is not dumpster diving. So we are picking up perishable surplus food that is still good for human consumption. We do not pick up food waste, which is just, shown up here in the second picture, the picture on the right. And oftentimes that's the food that is best for feeding livestock, the anaerobic energy production, or composting. It's food that's gone past, it's not really edible any longer. So we really focus on capturing that food that still could be nourishing people. And we operate a logistics and distribution program. So we're not a food pantry or a food bank. Really what we are is a service to the community where we're connecting food from businesses who have surplus And that's everything from restaurants and wholesalers to caterers, event venues, grocery stores, convenience markets, any business really that has food, school cafeterias, businesses with cafeterias. We pick up that surplus food from them, and then we distribute it through a network of partnerships with nonprofit agencies. So we do not provide food directly to people in need, but we rely on the good works and the professionalism of many really great nonprofits in the area who are already serving those folks. And we match the food to their needs. We don't bank food. We deliver it the same day that we pick it up. So that's where the logistics come in, is that we really have to know exactly who needs what food on what days, how much and what types of food each organization can use, and have our route set up to be most efficient. We've got a professional fleet of trained drivers who have food safety certifications. They pick up the food from businesses 5 days a week. They start very early in the morning. A lot of these businesses are on regularly scheduled routes. Some are more on call, like event centers or caterers. When they have a big event, they'll let us know so that we can schedule that pickup. And again, we don't warehouse the food. So when it goes on the truck, it's going to come off the truck that very same day. This is a list of our some of our food donor partners. You can also find an up-to-date list on our website, and there's a really cool interactive map, a Google map on the website as well, where you can look to see if there's any participating food donors in your area. And this is just a few pictures I pulled of some of the food that we're picking up. Again, we're perishable food rescue. Again, because we're not a food bank, and we're not storing any food, we really focus our operations on the food that is hardest to rescue, and that's the perishable food. So, this food needs to be used or eaten fairly quickly. So we rely on those relationships we've built to know if we get a call for, a semi-load of strawberries, we know the agencies we can call that same morning and say, hey, can you take 2 pallets of strawberries? And because the last thing we want to have happen is for us to go to all the effort of rescuing this food and then for it to be wasted because the agency that we provided it to really doesn't have a means to use it. So we really rely on our intimate knowledge of those partners and what their needs are. And they're communicating with us all the time. And who are they? This is a list. This actually is already outdated, but because we've added a couple more, we've had to pause adding recipient agencies during the pandemic because our food donations were down during the pandemic. But these are some of the agencies that we deliver food to. And again, they're all great organizations doing good work. And the food donations that we provide are really important, not just to those nonprofit partners, because it helps them save money on their food costs. We provide the service at no cost to either the business donating the food or to the recipient agencies. But it's also really important to the people who are receiving food assistance through these agencies. And this is just a recent quote from one of the agencies that we provide food to. But dignity is an important component of food assistance, and allowing people access to the high quality foods that we all expect to have in our diets. We believe and truly feel that everyone deserves access to good, nutritious, healthy food. And that's why this perishable food rescue, we feel like, is such an important solution to both an environmental and a social problem. And then the other side of our mission is raising awareness. So I don't know about all of you, but I've been working in the arena of conservation for 30 some years now. Saving Grace, just the most recent organization I've interacted with. And I'm the first to admit, food waste wasn't the top on my list of concerns. I was very concerned, and still am, about global climate change, about our water resources, about non-point pollution sources, and a whole bevy of other things. But I really hadn't been thinking about food waste. And it's a pervasive problem that nobody's talking about. And it represents one of the easiest problems we have to solve when it comes to global climate change. Saving Grace Perishable Food Rescues started in 2013. Beth Ostick Smith is our founder and CEO. She's actually the one with the thumbs up in this picture. And she had this vision because she saw firsthand through another organization that she had helped start both problems, the problems of hunger in our community, and then the problem of how much food was being wasted. And she really wanted to find a solution to those problems. And she modeled this organization after a similar organization down in Arizona. And the driver in this picture, Judy Rydberg, she just retired last December, and she helped start the organization. She was Beth's first hire, and she ran the logistics of a similar organization down in Arizona. So she brought her knowledge, Beth's connections, and since then we've rescued, we're just a few pounds shy of 8 million pounds, I checked today, which represents over 7 million meals that we've provided through our nonprofit partners, around $14 million worth of food that was saved. And that's the donation value of food. That's not the retail market value of the food. So like I said, food waste, it's an enormous problem. Honestly, it's a crisis global, all around the globe. The United Nations has made it one of its top priorities in terms of global climate change and feeding the world. We cannot solve the problems of climate change and feeding a growing population without solving the food waste problem. The good news is it's really easy to be part of this solution because it starts at home. Like I said, 40% of the surplus food in this country is coming from our homes. So it's the very pragmatic stuff that probably, depending on your age, your mother or your grandmother might have talked about, because they lived through a time of scarcity, of rationing. And that is, plan your meals, eat what you purchase, shop your fridge first. And this is the kind of stuff I hope we'll spend some time. As soon as I get done with this presentation, we'll have an open period for question and answers. And I'd love to hear your ideas on how we can all be part of the solution. We'd love for you to help connect businesses to us who maybe aren't yet donating their surplus food. This emblem, that says our excess food is donated through Saving Grace. We just started this new recognition program with our partners, our business partners. So when you're out and about, start watching for this emblem. And if you're at a business that you noticed either on our website is partnering with us, or you see this emblem, please thank them. Let them know how much as a consumer you value food and that you appreciate that they are taking the extra effort, because it is extra effort, for them to get the food ready for donation. And then, of course, you can always get involved in organizations like Saving Grace, like Green Bellevue. But you can, make donations, you can volunteer. Our volunteers help us at our community events. And we'd encourage you to follow us on social media. So, at the end of the day, one of the phrases we say is feeding bellies, not landfills. And when we really are purposeful about the way we handle and value food, we are nourishing people and we are nurturing the planet. And this is one of those feel-good stories that everybody can be part of, because food is part of everyone's lives. Even if you don't drive a car, or consume energy off the grid. We all have to eat, and all of us can play a role in helping reduce the amount of wasted food and thus the impact on the environment. So, that was the basic presentation. I'd love for us to take ourselves off of mute because, like I said, we have a small group, and I think there's an opportunity for us just to have a bit of a dialogue about this, and I'd, of course, entertain your questions.
Do we have any questions from the group?
I have a question. Where do you get your funding?
Is this Jeanette?
Yes.
Hi, Jeanette. It's 100% contributions. So it's individuals, companies, foundations. Yeah, so we're fully funded through private contributions.
So people that receive your receive the produce do not have to pay for it.
No, so all of our partners, so the food goes directly to our partner agencies, that big list of agencies around the Omaha metro area, and we're now expanding into Council Bluffs. They pay no money for the fee, so neither the delivery, so we deliver it to them for free, no obligation. They're also not obligated to take food. So, because again, our main mission is to reduce wasted food, we don't want to give any agency food that they feel like they can't use. So a lot of the agencies that we serve call our food the boutique food, because it's the food that the people that they serve really want, because it's super high quality food, and it's fresh. So, and I also wanted to point out that we don't just collect food that's unprepared. We also pick up a lot of prepared foods, food that you might not think about, but like if you go to a quick shop, for example, and you walk in, there's a fresh food area. It's prepared food. So it's like those little containers with the hard-boiled eggs or the cut up veggies and fruit or cheese cubes. Those have really short shelf lives. And the company sets those best by dates, which is a whole nother problem with food waste, is all of those best by, used by dates. There's no government regulation behind that. It's really driven by consumerism, and it's really companies use it to get more product on the shelves and to increase the amount of turnovers. So those quick shops, places like that, they have to take that stuff off the shelves when a new shipment comes in. Well, our homeless shelters, our transitional living shelters, places like that we partner with love that kind of food, because not everybody seeking food assistance has the capacity to prepare food, either because they don't have a place to prepare food. So it doesn't do you much good to get a box full of, all the raw ingredients if you don't have a place or you don't have the capacity to prepare food. So those pre-prepared sandwiches, cut up veggies and fruits, those are really popular with our agencies.
There's the Benedictine Way is associated with the Episcopal Church it's in North Omaha, and it has a food pantry, but they have just, that was on Saturday, they have felt there's a need up there, and so they have added a Tuesday, and so this is something new that they're doing. So can an organization that needs food, then what would they do? Apply to you?
Yeah, so if they go to our website, there's a section on the website that says who we serve, and there's information there about any 501c3 agency, so organization. So church would meet that criteria. We can't give food directly to people, and we can't provide food to a for-profit. And really the only thing we do an agency visit so that we can better understand what the needs are and what the capacity is. Like, do they have refrigerators? Do they have freezers? what kinds of food are they looking for? What are their hours? Who can unload the food if we get there? You know, that kind of stuff. So we do a whole intake process. But yeah, they can call the number or reach out to us via email. Right now, unfortunately, we have a bit of a waiting list. It's not huge, and we do feel like we're going to overcome it. But one of the things that happened during the pandemic is food donations dropped significantly. And because when we take on a food partner, a food recipient agency, we want to make certain that we're going to be able to meet their needs on an ongoing basis. The last thing we want to have happen is for them to get used to or dependent on the food that we provide them and then not be able to meet that need. So we're always very cautious about adding more food partners, recipient partners, until we get that food donation level back up to where it was pre-pandemic. But we've brought on 11 new food donors already this year, so we feel like we're going to be in a good position to start adding some of those folks off our waiting list. I would be really curious to hear from the group. And Nancy, sorry we missed you in a waiting room there, but I'm glad that you were able to join us. I would love to hear from the group if anybody has ideas or tips, things that they've done at their own homes or with businesses that maybe you've been affiliated with that have helped reduce wasted food. I'll volunteer my one of my tips and to get us started, and maybe I'll pick on Derek. So one of the things that I do is I keep a freezer bag of trimmings for broth. So, you know, when you're trimming up or peeling some carrots and trimming up celery for a veggie tray, let's say, or a salad, there's all those little bits and pieces maybe that you don't always use, or maybe that celery in the fridge has gotten a little tired. You know, I just chop it up and throw it all into this big gallon Ziploc bag I have, but I keep adding to it and adding to it. And then once it gets completely full, I will toss that in. Sometimes I'll keep like a couple chicken bones or something if I have them, but oftentimes I'll just make a veggie broth. I'll toss that in the slow cooker and cover it with water and, you know, let it cook on low for a couple days or a day and a half. And I get a really delicious veggie broth that I can then use cooking pasta or making soup, in cooking. And sometimes then I'll turn around and freeze that. So it's just a little thing, but it has definitely reduced the amount of food that I have to compost or put in the landfill.
I'll save you from picking on me. So I mean, this is a great presentation for me personally because let's just say I am not that great with saving food. And you bring up the pre-portion meals and foods at like a quick shop, and I stand for Hy-Vee. I'm a Hy-Vee shopper, and they have their sections in produce and everything like that of cut up meats and cheeses and salads, all that kind of stuff. And so I get a lot of those just for sheer time convenience, just because of all the projects I'm working on and everything like that. It helps with me to be able to cut out the time factor in having that stuff already prepared. But like you said, the shelf life on those is so short that if you aren't staying on top of eating those items, they go bad faster than something that's not already prepared or anything like that. So, and then, like you said, you can't particularly trust the best by dates because they have to get rid of that stuff. So I typically pull from the back.
Mhm.
I savvy enough to know that the stuff that's up front is going to have a shorter shelf life than stuff that's in the back. So I am that jerk that they probably hate, who is taking out the front stuff so they can reach the stuff in the back. So
But honestly, Derek, like you're just voicing out loud what all of us have done. It is a consumer habit, though, that we can make a difference if we start changing our habits. Consumers have a ton of power in the food system. So if you know you're going to eat that salad in the next day or two, take it from the front. Because what will end up happening is if we don't take those early, those near dated items off of the shelf, they do end up getting wasted. I forgot to mention it earlier, but we always advocate not to put too much weight in those best by, used by, expired by dates, because there is absolutely no consistency and no regulations behind them. But to use the sight, sniff, smell, the smell, sight, taste test. Yeah, that's it. So, we evolved as humans, learning to keep ourselves alive without expired by best by dates. So we actually have keen senses when it comes to when food is spoiled and not good. So we should rely on ourselves. I mean, how many of us have looked at the date on a milk carton, tasted it? I think it tastes fine, but I'm not really sure. And then dumped it out. And instead believe yourself more than you believe those expired by best by dates. And storage of food has a big impact on it too. So in that video of the strawberry, we saw her come home and wash the strawberry. And we all have great access nowadays, which more so than when I was young, learning how to manage a household. But to the internet, you can Google like how to keep your produce fresh longer. And we know that, washing your strawberries before you eat them in the plastic containers, probably the worst thing you can do. So, being mindful of what you're going to eat. But those pre-prepared salads are another way, though, that someone like yourself can help reduce food waste, because maybe you know yourself well enough to know if I buy a whole head of lettuce, I'm going to make a salad, maybe two, and then I'm going to waste the rest of that salad, that head of lettuce. So it's a great way to reduce, because restaurants and food service, they're actually the least producers of food waste, because it's about their bottom line. So they don't want to waste food because it cuts into their profits. Households are by far just in terms of what percentage of our own food, and it hits our pocketbooks. There's a study that says about average American household wastes at least $2,800 a year on groceries. Probably for a lot of it's more than that. But if you think about it being basically a third of your grocery bill. So start just picturing the great vacation you could take if you just didn't waste any more food.
Yeah, if you're a smart restaurant, then you're really in tune with your par levels on any given busy day. And so what to order from US Foods, what your cost of goods are. That's definitely correct that restaurants are the least likely to be huge corporates or culprits of that. But what I was going to mention is that it's super fat, because when you say that consumers have a lot of power, and it's interesting to think about it as from a cultural standpoint, because I was just recently talking to somebody a couple weeks ago about they traveled to Spain and how they were there for a week, and so they needed like grocery supplies, and how they went to a local market and came in with their typical American type of thought processes, like, okay, we need to get stuff for the whole week. Whereas what they found in Europe, in Spain, is that people were just going to the grocery store to get what they need for that evening or for that next day. And then they would go back, and then they would go back again. And so they're not getting food and supplies to last them for the whole week. It's just for that one meal. So I found that to be super fascinating, how there's such a stark cultural difference when it comes to how we view food and everything too.
Definitely. Yeah, we have partnered with an immigrant population in Omaha, and they were really shocked when they came to Omaha because of some of our cultural differences around food. One being that we did go to the grocery store and buy a large amount of food. It was supposed to last us for an extended period of time. And then secondly, that we had very little control over our food, so they came from a culture where most of the food, they produced it themselves. And so to go to a grocery market and see food from all around the world that was shipped here on airplanes and trucks and everything else, that was kind of a bit of a shock to them because they knew how precarious that was. And during the pandemic, we definitely saw that. So yeah, that cultural difference, and Americans, and there's a whole nother presentation on that you could get into, but we have just, in time, we've not valued food as much as other cultures have. So it's a little bit of our throwaway society.
I will tell you that something that really works with strawberries and raspberries, particularly raspberries, because they spoil easily, is use the 1 part vinegar to 9 parts water and rinse them, but then make sure they're good and dry. But that actually doesn't have a vinegar flavor, and it lasts, they last quite a bit longer.
That's a great tip, Jeanette. I've used that. And then storing them in glass rather than plastic sometimes helps too.
Yeah, if you put them back in the container they came in, you also have to dip the container in that.
Right. That's great.
Do we have any more questions from the group?
This one is not exactly related to her, but we, in our church, that someone sponsors a community-wide compost. But I have found, and for a while I was doing it, but I have 3 containers in my kitchen for trash already. So I have the orange bag, I have the other recycling, and I have a small trash can. If I add that, I've got another one, and that's 4 different things in my kitchen, and it's too much. Does anybody have any suggestions about that?
Jeanette, I definitely hear you. I feel sometimes like I'm a hoarder of trash because I like, how am I going to dispose of this? Because I want to send as little to the landfill as possible. I sometimes will hang on to things just because I haven't figured out yet how to recycle them. But I took part in the Hillside Solutions Community Compost Club. And what I did was kept a little compost bucket right outside my kitchen door so that I could just, even in the wintertime, just step right out there and scrape it in. The food that needed to go to the compost. I kept it out of my kitchen. There are some smells that come with keeping a compost bucket. So, but it can be a challenge, definitely.
Nancy in the chat, she says, my pet peeve is people needing to know what we are bringing for a potluck scheduled a month or more away. There is no way to know what will be ready to harvest, what will be in the cupboard, or what is available.
Yeah, Nancy, we aren't hearing you. So, because I see you've taken yourself off mute a couple times. So you might check to make sure you're connected to your audio or that your audio is not muted on your computer. Yeah, that is a tough one. And again, that might come back to those cultural changes we need to make. Especially if, you know, you're the kind of person who does have a garden or likes to shop local. And so, you know, I think that's something we can all work on, helping change some of those cultural things that might not make that much sense when it really comes down to reducing food waste and the impact it has on the environment. So it seems completely logical to me that you would be able to say, I'll know when I get closer to that date because I'll shop my fridge and my garden or my community's garden.
All right. Well, if we have no more questions from the group, then Autumn, I just want to thank you for taking this time to talk about saving grace and food rescue. I definitely personally have taken a lot from this presentation, as I am literally about to go grocery shopping right now. So we'll see if I can put into practice what I just learned.
Yeah, and thank you, Derek, and thanks to Green Bellevue for being such a great partner in the community and bringing this topic to light today, and for everyone for participating.
Awesome. Well, thank you everybody for hopping on, and just stay tuned to our social medias for future education programs. Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Bye.